Okay, so we'll get everyone muted, especially those who are just coming on. I'll just check that. And I think, Isabella, you might have to just mute. Excellent, fantastic. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. So I'm Jeanette Mcdonald. Many of you know me from redox talks that I've done or business training before. So I'm a gold executive with the ASEA company. I'm prepared to do the interview tonight and I have a guest with me. But before I start, I've been involved with this company and with the redox products now for more than 3 years. I was on a health journey to begin with, and now, of course, I'm in a quite different space of sharing the magic molecules with a lot of people. So my life in 3 years has transformed quite radically, and I'm here really in a way because of the ASEA products. So I've got a deep connection with the molecules, with the company, and with where we can go on this journey together as a sharing, growing community. So tonight I've got a special guest and also someone I have known for a long time, Michelle, with us, and I'll introduce her more fully later. But before that, I need to really get started on the usual introduction to this talk. I'll invite you just to think about a few questions as we get underway here tonight. Firstly, do you have a health challenge or know of someone with a health challenge that needs help? Would you like to reduce the visible signs of aging? Do you need more money to do what you love? Are you an athlete looking to improve your performance? Or are you looking for more time or money freedom and a better lifestyle? To really live well, we need two basic things: a body that can do whatever we ask it to do, and enough money to ask it to do some great things. To have that body, you might be exercising, you might be watching your diet or taking nutritional supplements. You might be doing anything you can think of, or maybe you're not even doing anything at all. Frustratingly, no matter what you do, as you age, your cells respond less effectively to all of these strategies. Your cells naturally begin to break down, producing energy less efficiently and repairing themselves more slowly. If your cells could just be a little more efficient, your exercise, nutrition, supplementation, and everything else would be more effective. You could be healthier, longer, with less effort. Several years ago, scientists made a groundbreaking discovery. They identified molecules that are native to the body. They're produced inside the body and they help your cells repair and regenerate. Once discovered, years of research and development went into figuring out how to produce these molecules outside of the body so that they could be a nutritional supplement. The result is molecular technology that helps your cells work better. And when your cells work better, everything works better. Your exercise and diet efforts become more productive. Nutritional supplementation works even better. You feel better, you look better, you sleep better, and you have more energy. So they're the basic premise that we work with when we're working with redox technology. But tonight, I have Michelle with us as our guest, and I'd just like to introduce her to you first. I've known Michelle for more than 15 years. We are friends, and we've been on a journey all of that time together, exploring all sorts of possibilities. We're partners in some ways, we're friends in other ways, we're peers in other ways. She's a busy mum with 3 children, and her youngest child is 8 years of age. And Michelle herself is 51 years old. So she was a late mum with her children, but especially her 3rd child, who was a boy, after 2 girls. Michelle doesn't really have any apparent health issues, even though she's 51 years of age. And she just really wants to talk tonight about a different aspect of the redox product. She doesn't really want to talk so much about health challenges, and the angle we're taking tonight is really to look at mental clarity, about her energy, about her day-to-day endurance. It's often something people talk about as their first experience with the redox products, but it's not anything that people would take into a full interview process. So we thought that was an area truly worth exploring tonight. So I'll just get Michelle on speaker view here in a moment, and I'll ask her some questions and we'll start her story. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
We're hopping into speaker view here now. Great. So as we go along, of course, tonight I'll ask you some questions. I'll just ask you, of course, to be completely, let me just see, hang on a minute. Someone's not muted before we start. We'll just get that sorted. So we'll just mute everybody again. We're muting all. And Michelle, you may have to unmute again.
There we go.
Fantastic. There's just a little bit of interference there, and I just want this to be really nice and clear tonight. So, Michelle, you know, you started with these redox products about 3 years ago, back in 2016, and I know you started and then you had a restart more recently. So can we go back to May 2016 when you were first introduced to the products? And I'd like to just ask you, what really drew you to these products? What brought you to them, and why did you even begin this journey when you had no apparent health issue?
Yeah, it's a great question. I hear a lot of people talk about health issues and look back at that time, and mine was an interest, an intuitive interest, I would say. And as you know, yourself and Jen introduced me to redox, and I was fascinated by the fact that it seemed something unique and different that I'd never heard of. And not being very science-based, I really just started taking the product out of interest and trust that you guys had done some research. So it was really that simple for me in the beginning.
Right. So, you know, at that time, back in May 2016, just before you started on the redox products, how would you really have described life as it was, you know, like before?
Yes. I looked back at this just recently, having a birthday in April, turning 51, and I thought back to those 3 years ago. I was constantly tired, constantly overwhelmed, exhausted all the time, and just used being a busy mum as an excuse for that, thinking that that's how it had to be. I really only had energy for the bare minimum of what needed to be done. There was nothing left, nothing left for me. It was really just, you know, do the kids, do the family, do what I could do, and there was not much left. So I didn't feel like I was living a full life. I was just surviving.
So you were surviving the drive, and you were introduced to the products. And I remember at the time there was a couple of other reasons too. I mean, you were in overwhelm and you were tired, but I think, if I recall, you were spurred on by what was happening to people around you at the time as well.
Absolutely. You know, firstly, I heard it might increase energy levels, and I thought, well, that's for me. I'm in. And then a couple of dear friends, and the one sitting opposite me right now on the screen, was going through a massive health challenge. And what I saw change for her, and the confidence it gave you, Jeanette, to get through what you were going through, and to see the support it gave, the treatment you were having, and surgery and different things you went through. I was just astounded at how fast the recovery was going, and for other people as well. But your story, I guess, was more close to my heart. And when I think back to that time and how it could have been, it brings a lot of emotion, because, again, to know there's something there that can support someone going through a massive health challenge is just so important. Again, I haven't been through one, but it's to know that if anyone close to me that's there for them is astounding.
And what's your mantra that goes with that? May
I never know what I'm preventing.
Mhm. Yes, and I think that's become your mantra. So in a way, you started it because you were tired and overwhelmed, but you also were spurred on to do it as a preventative measure. So going back to those days, I remember you enrolled with the gel to begin with, not with the liquid, but just with the gel. And tell me, how long did it take before you noticed any kind of change just by using the gel?
It was really quick for me. I remember just getting this tube and having that commitment of, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to spend the money, get the product, I'm going to use it properly. So I remember watching Justin's testimonial about the raspberry size and putting it all around in your ears and under your arms. And so I did that. I used it really well and properly, and I did go through my first order fairly rapidly because I was using it that way. And I noticed it would be within the 2 to 3 week mark, I felt my energy levels rise. I was sleeping deeper, and my stamina during the day. I think in the beginning I was also applying it sort of midday, just to really test it out, and had a big shift. I think it was about 2 weeks actually.
Yeah, so that's a really fast, positive response, and we call that high impact. So it's a high impact product. And then I know a couple of months later you started with the liquid supplement. So just tell us about what happened then when you added in the liquid supplement back in 2016.
Yeah, I remember thinking, then I'd done a little bit more research and then seeing, you were taking the liquid, and I remember seeing some testimonials about it sort of giving that next level, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And to drink the liquid as well as using the gel, it just took my energy levels to a whole nother stage. And that's when I really started realizing that this was something that could give me more than what I thought I could have. So to be able to not just get through my day, but start fitting in extra things for myself. I remember thinking it was making me want to get up earlier, go walking again, just have more time for me instead of just getting through the day.
Absolutely. So then I think over the next couple of years, there were a few intermittent challenges and things competing for energy, time and finances. And so your journey was a little intermittent. And then at the beginning of 2019, you went, okay, I am fully back now and fully committing to taking both the products. So what brought on that re-energizement and the commitment now to really become a product of the product?
So the gel I had never stopped using. I'd committed and I was using that consistently all that time. And like you said, with the liquid, a little bit intermittent depending on finances and situations. And around October, November, I had a big shift in my clarity and a big shift in my focus. And I attributed that to a lot of deep work I was doing, but also the liquid. I sort of had it a couple of months in a row and was more consistent. And I got to 2019 in the beginning of the year and just set that new goal for myself that I was not going to go off the liquid either. Turning 51, like you said, busy mum, I would rather give up something else and have that and then have a fuller life. So that I've really noticed the change from that commitment from January, February, right through to now.
Right. Yeah. And so now I know one of the things that people always ask, Michelle, before we get to all the benefits is, what dose were you on and how were you using it? So let's start with the renew and how you use the gel. Like, what is your ritual in the morning? You were telling me about it yesterday. So just whip through how many blobs and where you put it, just so people get the idea.
Sure. And I can distinctly remember this when I first started because it was May and it was cooler weather. And I remember standing in the bathroom and just sort of drying off and going, okay, let's get this on fast. But I would do my first application, like Justin explained, like a raspberry size, and that was all around my forehead, the back of my neck, behind my ears, and all over my face and my throat and back of my neck, I think I said. So that was one blob. Then I'd do another application, and that was sort of under my arms, under my breasts, all around that area. And then I'd do a third one, and that was around my lower back and my old cesarean scar, sort of around that gut area. So that was my daily morning ritual.
So 3 good blobs, definitely to start the day. And then I know that you often use it during the day just to give you a little bit of a lift.
Yeah.
So the gel you're a consistent user of the gel, and I know you always have a tube with you, don't you?
Yeah, but there's a bit of a mantra or another mantra in the house of we don't leave the home without it. So there's always one planted in the bathroom and usually in the kitchen area, but there's always one in my bag, and that goes with us. So during the day, I don't wear makeup a lot during the day unless I'm working or doing something specific. So I'll just reapply it to my face. But if I have got makeup on, I'll just put it around my arm area, or even just around behind my neck.
So often in those lymphatic sites. Yeah, that's great. And just tell us then about your usage with the liquid. Like what would be a normal day with the liquid, and then go on to tell us about if you had a heck of a lot going on in your life, how would you upload even more?
So the general dose for me with the liquid is 1 cup, 60 mils in the morning. And I actually have it sitting next to my bed. And when I wake up, I take it straight away. And that gives me time before I brush my teeth or have breakfast. So it's just there. It's just become a regular habit. And so that's 60 mils in the morning. And then I'll have 60 mils again at night. I'm somebody that needs to have it just as I'm about to lay down and go to sleep. Whereas if I have it a couple of hours before I go to bed, it might keep me a little bit awake. And I learnt that sort of just by trial and error.
Mm-hmm. And then what about if it's a particularly busy day, or you're at a conference or you've got a lot going on? What would you do then with your dosage?
Well, I really learnt this back in October. I had 7 days away at a retreat where we were doing long hours, lots of sitting, and a lot of physical challenge as well, getting up early and late nights. So I took a whole bottle away with me and just pretty much powered through it the whole week. And there were a lot of people around me really finding it hard to keep up and keep energized. And I actually traveled through that week really well and didn't crash when I got home. So that's when I went, okay, I need to add this in, one, more consistently, but also have extra on hand so that, again, if it's busy, and we had a weekend away just recently where everyone was a little bit unwell, so I knew I needed extra then. Or if the kids have come home with someone, there's colds and flus at school or something like that, I'll just increase my dose, and it might be 2 cups in the morning and then another cup during the day around 3 o'clock about the latest. And I've noticed, and still my 1 at night. Yeah. So it's doubling the dose but spreading it out during the day, and it just gives me that extra energy to get through. Great.
So knowing now, since you resumed this year with both products in tandem, what would you say have been the benefits if you have both products on board and just using them to consistently replenish your body?
I've been pretty gobsmacked myself at how much energy I've got throughout most days. I used to be somebody that would have to go to bed early all the time to keep up with my life, and again, the age I've chosen to have my children. Now what I've found is that I get up much earlier. I wake up really early to meditate in the mornings and often do a morning walk as well. And then I go most of the day. I'm currently homeschooling my 8-year-old boy, so I don't get a lot of time to myself. And then the evening, I do still go to bed early because I like to, and I know it's good for me, but I can have a late night here and there and still seem to sustain patience and calm. And I've got to say that's not what I used to be.
So really it's helped you to be more stable, but to be more present as well. So can you just talk into that whole, like tonight we geared this around mental clarity, around the energy, but it's more than that, isn't it? I know you feel like, and I've also witnessed that you've stepped up another level.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about a level necessarily with bodily or physical health, but it is on another plane, isn't it? So can you just speak into that piece for us tonight?
Absolutely. I have a much more grounded, clear, boundaried life. So I seem to be vibrating at a different frequency, and that's the language I use because I do meditation and breath work. And there just seems to be an alignment with drinking the liquid and using the redox and the way it works in my body at a cellular level, and that somehow speaks to the other work I do in my personal life. And I just seem to be more grounded, more centered, much more able to make clear decisions faster. When I would have overwhelming decisions to make, or, you know, life throwing curly things at me, I'd crash and have to sort of recluse for a while and regroup. Whereas I still do that, but I seem to do it shorter and faster and come out much clearer, much stronger boundaries, and the ripple effect of that is my relationships in my family, my teenager, my husband, and just everybody just seems to be more harmonious.
And I noticed then also with you, not just about the harmony, but you're in a place where you can embrace joy more readily, aren't you? Mm. Like you don't just keep crashing into how am I going to cope and I'm not managing. It's like a lot of that emotional ups and downs just level out. And then with that comes this just, okay, this is what I have to do here, instead of questioning and doubting yourself.
Yeah. There's far less fallout with things that go on in our lives these days. And for me, I'm at the centre of that as the mum, as the woman. I'm at the helm of that. And far less fallout when life throws things at us. And for me, sometimes it's an intuitive thing as well, but I just know that it's having the redox and having that support. It's supporting my system in all ways.
And I think it's also about if you support it in all ways, you move into a space of having more confidence in what you're doing and how you are in the world.
Oh, absolutely. I've taken on dreams and goals that I have been putting off for a very long time, as you've seen and you know. And there just seems to be, again, like you said, a confidence, almost much more comfortable in my skin to just do it, just get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So the joyful, sorry, Jeanette, the joyful thing, the playful thing. Yes. When I first took on the role of homeschooling, which wasn't really a choice, it was more of a have to do. I did wonder how I was going to cope with that, and the playfulness and the joyfulness has really come back. So,
well, it's returned, hasn't it? It's like you've become more of the package instead of with wobbly bits all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great, Michelle. You've really just sort of captured that. One of the things that I am also aware of with you and would just like to bring up in terms of what we're talking about here, you've taken on the daily meditation. And I mean, we've shared together a number of times, and when I've still been in bed or half awake, you're sitting up doing your meditation, and that has become very consistent with you. It's not a one-off thing, it's very consistent. And the meditation is not short, it's like an hour or more at a time. So you're doing this on normal weekdays, normal work days when you've got kids to get off to school and all the other busy things of running your own business. Now, probably a couple of years ago, I know you would not have been able to manage that at all. So that's something that I've witnessed. So do you want to just speak into that small piece of it too? About meditation, I mean, and the consistent effort. Yeah.
I think that's been one of the amazing bonuses and benefits that I'm still a bit flawed about, and my family around me. That word consistency hasn't always been in my life. And to consistently meditate early in the morning, knowing that it is good for me and have always wanted to, but just didn't really plug it in properly. It was very intermittent. Now it's a consistent part of my life, and it is for a good hour and a half or 2 hours. And I'll sometimes add in meditation during the day, but it's a consistent thing. And that's what I was saying before about that alignment. I don't think I could do that without the redox. And doing that also helps support the redox. My body seems to uptake it. Again, there's a frequency that just works well. So it's been very life-changing in that aspect.
So we've talked about, the redox products really being your, the booster charger for you, and allowing your, allowing your superpowers to come to the fore. That's what we've talked about a couple of times, about how you're really focused, you're really on task and all that. But tell me about insights and intuition for you, because that's an interesting aspect. A lot of people talk about mental clarity, but I'm also very aware, and I've experienced it myself, many of us have a higher level of intuition and can pick up things that we may have missed previously. Have you had that experience happening?
Absolutely. My intuition and matching with that clarity was very hit and miss over the years. It was certainly there. I feel now at that deeper cellular level that everything's functioning and working and supported. It's so regular and so consistent that I almost can't keep up with it. It was a little bit daunting for me at first, because it was all turned on. I think when I sort of accepted and understood what was going on, now I'm really enjoying that. So it's something that was there that was almost suppressed, I think, and now it's almost lit up and turned on.
So would you say that the redox products have sort of unlocked a part of yourself that was struggling to find its way or to emerge?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So just in closing, Michelle, I think we've talked about how life is now and how you're hitting some of your dreams and goals and all of those wonderful things. And you've really explained things well and in a clear way with us tonight. But, our cells know from the moment they receive the redox what to do with it. So we don't have to overthink that. So I think in the beginning you just intuitively knew that this is what your body needed, didn't you?
Yes.
And the whole idea about you sometimes taking more or using more of it is still about intuitively working with your body, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, the intuition is there on that level too.
Yeah, and you've really made me think of something that I haven't said yet, which is very important. Even though it sounds like I'm energetic and full of life just because of listing off all the things I do, I'm actually inherently quite lazy. And if I can find something simple and easy and that I don't have to work too hard at, I'm in. And for me, I think that's one of the key benefits to the gel and the liquid as well. You just drink it and apply it. That's it. Stick it in your bag and go. And that's really good for me because I'm not complex. I wanted to keep it simple and, again, inherently lazy. So it's so easy to do.
Well, it's a simple preventative ritual, isn't it?
As you were talking, I thought, that's
fantastic.
Simple.
So, Michelle, I think unless you want to add anything to that, I'd like to close off right now. Close off this part. We can take the recording off, and then we can have a few Q&A after that. So, are you complete with that, or do you want to say something final to wrap it?
I guess the thing that I would like to say, I was only thinking about this today, knowing that we were doing this tonight. I'm pretty excited to see how it's all going to look in another 3 years' time.
That's good. Present for now, but also there's a focus up ahead on the future. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing to know that dreams really do come true, because the improvements you've had already let you know on some level that okay, if I've come this far in 3 years, where will I be in 3 more? So wonderful.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to just thank you for an interview, and I'd like to just make a disclaimer before we finish up with this interview. And the disclaimer is simply that the ASEA products are not intended to diagnose, treat or cure any condition. They simply empower cellular communication and cellular function. So if you have been invited here this evening by someone to watch this presentation, just get back to them and let them know you're interested to get started, and I'm sure they'll help you with your redox experience. So I'll just come back to the other view on screen here since the interview is closed. And just in coming back, I'll just let everyone know that next week I'll be hosting another interview with Christine, and she has had significant changes with her thyroid-related imbalance and autoimmune condition, and lots of hormonal challenges that she had have virtually disappeared. So we'll be back here at the same time with that particular interview, and you'll get the information about that early next week. But line up next week or bring anyone else you've got to that interview as well. And tomorrow the recording of this will be up, and please share it with others. I'll just take the recording off now. Good night.